From an incredibly difficult childhood to a journey of healing. Welcome back to Irrepressible, ordinary people with extraordinary resilience. And in this episode, I speak to the incredible Becky. Now, this story has so much that you can take away, and implement. Becky now works as a spiral practitioner, having done some of the deep healing work herself after a life of growing up in dysfunction with a parent who drank too much, that was running away and fleeing. And then Becky talks about her life and what that looked like for her as a young adult and the ways that she tried to deal with those feelings and emotions. But then for a lot of this interview as well, and what I really like about this is Becky gives us so much value in terms of what she's done to heal, to do some of the shadow work, and some of the things that she's learned as an incredible spiral coach that she is now. Becky does amazing work. She's the real deal in terms of the healing journey, and her authenticity, vulnerability and honesty in this interview could not be underestimated. Like I say, this interview's got a hell of a lot for you to take away. So grab the pen, grab the paper, you might want to make notes, sit back and enjoy the interview. As ever, if it's the first time that you've ever been here, then make sure that you've hit subscribe, turned on the notifications so you know each and every time that we post a new interview, and I really hope you enjoy this. So Becky, it's good to have you here today. How are you feeling?
Good, a little bit nervous, but ready to go.
Yeah, and we've just spoke a little bit off air about how I was a little bit surprised that you were nervous seeing this stuff online. So it's interesting. That's always an interesting point. Why don't you, to kick us off, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about some of the amazing things that you're doing in the world today?
Okay, so I'm Becky. I'm 33. I'm living in Australia at the moment. I currently work as a spiral practitioner, so I'm coaching people through an 8-week journey, helping them to clear emotional blocks. My journey kind of led me up to this moment where I decided to quit my job and live out of my car for a couple of years and give up alcohol and drugs. And on that journey, I just discovered so much truth about myself. I finally decided that, I want to help other people work through this stuff. So there's been lots of twists and turns, but now I'm helping people and it's been so rewarding and it's helping me to heal as well. Yeah. So there's lots of new things coming up to the surface that I get to look at in doing this journey and this interaction with other people at this difficult time,
Yeah. And spiral, you said spiral coach, yeah?
Yeah.
So I follow your stuff, so I've got an idea of what that is. Can you just give us a very brief idea of what that is and what that means?
So it was created in 2012 by Dane Thomas, and it's a blend of different modalities, mostly kinesiology. So we do use muscle testing and emotional clearing. So we work through each of the chakras. And each of the chakras defines different ages where we were developing. So from age 0 right through to present moment. And the things that may have affected us at those ages, the emotional blocks that may be deeply rooted into who we are. And so each week we work through those blocks. And it's, just really interesting to see how the energy starts to clear and shift. And then we work towards a final session where we'll do a manifestation clear. So if somebody's got like a specific goal, maybe, they're aiming for a relationship or they want to create their own business and there's all these blocks around, I can't do that, I'm not good enough. This whole process will help clear way for them to actually achieve that. And then we create a structured plan so they can go out and get it. It's a really deep journey. And as I say, it is a form of kinesiology, but there's also, what else do we use? There's lots of different things. I have to have a look online because I'm a bit nervous, explaining it.
You've explained it really well, because genuinely, and I'm not just saying this, genuinely, and I'm not going to ask you any more on it because I could probably do a whole hour asking you questions about it. I'm being genuine as well. But you've explained it really well because you've made me think this sounds real good. It sounds very similar to some original pain work, which is, I use a lot of that in the kind of the coaching that I do, right? Which is going back and actually experiencing and unblocking those things. So it sounds incredible. And you can do that online, by the way. Do you do
Yeah,
it?
it's all done via Zoom. And then once we have, it's an hour and a half session every week. And then we have integration work.
Right.
So I bring in a lot of the experience I've had around plant medicines and stuff like that, because integration is the most important thing, I think, aside from the actual coaching session. So it's like, you know, I'm blocking patterns or I'm blocking emotions, and then looking at how do you integrate that in everyday life.
Yeah.
So we do lots of little exercises that really help people to pay attention to reactions they're having every day, and how they can respond to them. And yeah, just like making small changes, you know, like having a ritual every morning and prioritizing themselves first thing before anything else. And just getting into alignment, really. And that for me, I think that aspect of it is the real transformative part, because I've been able to take all the experience that I've had from all the different modalities I've worked in, because I've trained as a Kundalini yoga teacher as well, and obviously the plant medicine aspect, and then taken all my integration experience and put it into this weekly process.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's making waves. It's really surprised me how impactful it's been, this first round of people that I've worked with, and I'm really excited. So
Yeah, it sounds so good. Genuinely sounds so good. And maybe, and I'm thinking off the top of my head here, and I'm just going to throw this out here. Maybe we could do a live on that one day on Instagram. I'd love to for you to just tell me all about it for an hour.
Yeah,
So,
definitely, it's good practice.
yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to, because I'm really interested in it. But today we're here to talk more about you and kind of your story, right? And these interviews are built around the idea of resilience and breaking down some of the old school ideas of what that means, right? And bringing to the table some, you know, different ideas. So why don't you just kick off and tell us about the adversity that you've faced that's felt, you know, made you feel like you've had to be resilient in your life?
Yeah. Well, before I begin, I guess I have to say, speaking about this, as I mentioned to you, Josh, it brings up a lot of like anxiety and emotions, you know, sweaty palms. I struggle to speak. And I feel that, yeah, like I can come across very confident, but through what has happened in the past, that still, you know, is under the surface in some ways, like talking about this stuff in particular, because it was tough. And I feel we are made to think that we're not allowed to talk about it. And this is why it's really important for me to express this kind of stuff. But yeah, so growing up, I had two very young parents who were both alcoholics. My mum's side of the family really struggled with a lot of mental health issues, so the whole family. And whenever we had family gatherings, every weekend pretty much, there was just arguments, violence, all kind of things kicking off. So from age zero, really, there's been strange like memories that have come up through a lot of the healing work that I've done. But so much of the big events that happened in my life that were quite scary or threatening, or yeah, just obviously created a lot of hypervigilance in me. I actually thought was normal. I didn't actually see the impact of them, and I just thought that's life. That's how most families are. But then through this healing journey, I've really started to realize, like, wow, I really need to open up Pandora's box and go through all of this kind of stuff and look at how much it really has affected who I am today and shaped and molded who I am today. So until about the age of 14, my parents stuck together, but it was just constant all the time, like just fights. And we used to get woken up in the middle of the night by the police, taken to different people's homes. My mum often used to run away. Sometimes she'd take us with her and drink drive and just pack all our stuff up in bin bags and things like that. It was just, yeah, it was insane. When I got to about 15, my parents finally decided to split. And I feel like this was a real turning point for me, because I was more close to my dad because he was very kind of emotionally unavailable, and my mum was all over the place, very unstable. But I was concerned that what was going to happen to my mum at that point. And I thought, I'm going to need to stay with her because my sister had chosen to be with my dad. And it was kind of a little bit of a selfish decision, because I knew I needed to look after my mum, but I also knew that I could rebel and start getting away with things because my dad was very strict. So it was at this point when I moved with my mum that I started to go out and really hit it hard with drugs and alcohol. Like I just went insane. My mum didn't really know where I was, and I don't think she really cared at that time. So I'd just go out for days on end and wake up in parks randomly. Sometimes I slept on the streets with my mate, because my mate's mum was just as loose as my mum was. And yeah, like this went on for like 3 or 4 years. I ended up selling drugs. I used to steal all the time. And then I got into a really codependent relationship, which split pretty badly. And from then on, that kind of sent me into a spiral of sex addiction as well. So I was like addicted to alcohol, addicted to drugs, addicted to sex, like anything that would fill the void of my life, really. And in, I think, 2010, 2011, I decided I needed to just leave the country. I had another breakup with an ex, and I just decided to pack my bags and go. And everybody kind of thought, oh, she'll be back, because I was a little bit all over the place all the time. But I packed my bags, I got on a plane to Australia, and that was a huge turning point, because I didn't come back. I stayed out there for 8 years. I thought it would change my life. I thought like I would change through going to Australia. But when I got to Australia, I went straight to Bondi, which is exactly like Brighton, and just hit the drugs again. Got into a recruitment job. So I was like diehard recruiter, out on the gear, just like partying every single weekend. Wasn't stealing anymore, but was still going out and like being a bit promiscuous and wild. And then started working in adult work, because that wasn't enough for me. So I got involved in like adult work as well, and it was like a spiral. It just got worse and worse and worse. Even though I was trying to improve things, I was constantly looking for the next thing, and nothing was ever enough. And it was like I was trying to prove myself, so getting more money in, and then going on these big holidays, and just like it was all a cover-up. And it got to 2015, where just so many big events happened with people at parties and stuff. Like basically I used to just split off when I got drunk into different personalities. I used to get called Becky too, and I was a completely different person. And obviously now I know that was disassociation, where traumatic events have happened, and I was regressing back to childhood ages, where I would stamp and shout, or I'd start fights and throw things, or just be really stupid. And it got to a point where I woke up one morning and I was just like sick of being embarrassed, sick of having to apologize to everybody, sick of being rejected and abandoned by everyone. So I decided to try and give up alcohol. And to do this, I did a fitness competition. So I started to get in the gym. This is the next obsession. So I was eating 5 meals a day, working with a personal trainer, like just kangaroo and rice, literally for 8 months. But I stopped drinking, which was a really good thing. But I was fully obsessed with the gym. I'd go 3 times a day. But improvement had started to happen through me just making this small change. And I did this fitness competition, and I was really proud of myself, but then just crashed back into partying again, and it got even worse, like next level worse. It's a really big story with so many twists.
No, keep going, I'm enjoying it.
But so it got a lot worse, to the point where in 2016 I went to a party and had gone for 3 days straight. I must have drank like 2 big bottles of gin, a bottle of vodka. Like if I could add up the stuff that I used to drink and take, I'd done ketamine, MDMA, cocaine, laughing gas, what else? GB, I used to take the date rape drug. Mix it all up, and by the Monday morning, I'm in the fetal position at my house, just like, honestly thinking I was going to die. And just like at that point, looking at myself like, what the fuck are you doing to yourself? Like, this is next level. And yeah, I think I passed out on the floor of the bathroom for a bit. And when I got back up, I pulled myself up onto the sink and I was just staring at myself in the mirror. I looked dead, like my face was all grey and like pupils were dilated. And I just looked into my eyes for like half an hour. I was just staring at myself. And I honestly believe in that moment, I just connected with my soul. And it was just like, I, for the first time ever, looked at myself like as the inner witness, not as this person that I've created, but like the core of who I am was just like, what are you doing? It's like ride or die. You know, you need to evolve and change or quit it now, like just end it all. Wow. And I didn't want to end it all. Like this curiosity sparked in me where I was just like, who am I really? That was the question, because at that point I realized I didn't have a fucking clue who I was. This whole life I created was just one big cover up for all the pain that I had underneath it all. And yeah, it was that moment that I just kind of like started to separate myself from my life in Bondi. I started to close off from friends. I created a group on Facebook called Everything But Slosh. Right. And I tried to get all the party lot to join in. And it was basically every week I would put an event on there, like go-karting or whale watching, a hike in the mountains, and try and get people to come that didn't want to have a drink that weekend. But every weekend it was just me on my own. And looking back, I think I really needed that, because I'd go do these things on my own and I never did things on my own, apart from travel like 2 places, but I would always get to the place and then drink and be with lots of people. This was like completely sober, spending time in my own space, just like learning about myself. And it was a few months after that I met up with a good friend, Johnny, who also had similar problems with drinking and stuff. And he told me that he'd been to an ayahuasca ceremony. And he was like, Beck, I really think you should go. Like, I just feel like this is something you could really do right now. And I'd kind of heard about ayahuasca a couple of years before. And I told my friend she was crazy because she was watching videos on YouTube of people like throwing up in the forest, and it just looked scary and insane. And I didn't understand why anyone would do it. But at that time when he told me, I felt it so strongly that I have to go. And so he got me on the waiting list. And within 1 month, I went to this ayahuasca ceremony. And that just, still to this day, it gives me goosebumps, like how things just completely changed, like the veil just completely lifted. And I watched my whole life like a movie. It was like all these memories that I couldn't have recollected unless I'd taken this medicine. And I was just sat there crying probably for 3 hours, just wailing, crying. It was like all these tears I hadn't been able to release. And just watching how everything in my life had been connected. It was almost like I chose this path, but I was so lost on it, trying to please everybody else, that it was just, it took me so long to reach this point of realization. And so, yeah, after the ayahuasca, I got back to Sydney, and I was just like, I can't stay in this corporate job. I can't be in the city. All of it is a lie. I need to get away. And so within 3 months, I'd quit my job, got rid of my flat, packed up everything, literally down to a couple of suitcases, and decided to live out of my car. So I just hit the roads of Australia and was living in my car for like a year.
Wow.
And that was another game changer. Like, considering I had acrylic nails, fake eyelashes, hair extensions, fake tan, like the whole works, to then just like literally being some hippie in my car that couldn't shower for a couple of days, and like it was a Holden Commodore, so I'd just sleep on the driver's seat where my feet were like where the pedals were. Like sometimes I'd wake up near the gear stick, like, but I just did it because I just felt like I needed to. It was like I had to just get rid of everything that was around me that was a comfort. And the whole money thing as well, you know, breaking away from a salaried job, being a high billing recruiter and doing work on the side as well. Like I had no money really, sleeping out of this car, and it was like the complete shedding of who I was. And then that's just kind of led me to today, like 2-3 years, I think it's been. I just continued on the roads. I upgraded to a camper van, which was a lot better. And then once I was done with the camper van, I felt like I needed to go back to England at some point. And it was a slow transition, but it had been 8 years. And I decided to face my resistance, because I was always saying I wouldn't go back there. Wild horses wouldn't keep me from going back to England, you know, like it's just not for me anymore. But I realised that I was blocking off from it because I'd left such a different person, you know, at 23 years old, broken-hearted, you know, on drugs and alcohol. I didn't trust myself. That's what it was. And when I got back to England, I realised, that like I can trust myself. I don't need to drink or do drugs. Even though there was many temptations, and it was like going back into a time machine, being around old faces and places. There were ups and there were downs, and there were moments where I did try drinking again, and I just realised it's not for me. And after my time there, I've really healed like my relationship with my mum, not so much my dad. But it's brought me back to this point where obviously this situation in the world's going on, and I've decided it's time to come back to Australia, like this is my home. And that's kind of like put me in a position now where I can create this business and do this coaching, because I've gone back and faced what I resisted. I've tried being back in England and healed the relationships where I could, and found compassion for the relationships where I haven't, you know, instead of anger and frustration. And now I feel I can just really rest easy and start building the foundations of my life from a place where I feel so centered and in alignment, and just sure of my purpose, in that I've done the shadow work on such a deep level. You know, I haven't just pulled out some book and been like, right, I'm going to do some shadow work now. I've like literally been on this long winding path of like facing myself in so many ways. Even with the plant medicine, you know, it's been really, really challenging to, be throwing up and facing all this shit from the unknown, you know, like being in the astral world, which is frightening.
Yeah.
But in doing that, it's just really helped me to realize who I truly am. And that's all I want to do for other people. Just to get rid of those fucking blocks and stop pretending to be someone just to please everybody else, and never really knowing who you are.
And
that's where I
and that comes from, by the way, the kind of deep healing work that you talk about is like, it's obvious that you do the deep healing work as well. That comes across because like time of healing doesn't actually really matter. It's the kind of healing work that you do. But I would have always assumed that your deep healing journey started like 10 years ago. So the fact that, like, although in a way your healing starts, I think, when you're out there drinking, right? I think that's the first attempt.
Totally.
That's the first attempt to try and find a way to deal with the issue. But like in the kind of space online of people that are talking about healing and stuff like that, there's a lot of people talking about it that I can see. I don't think you've done like 5 minutes of healing work, right? Whereas actually for me, it comes like your healing work comes across like you definitely are consistently doing the work. And by the way, I see you evolve and change as well. Anyone that's doing healing work changes all the time, right? Because you're like having self-discovery all the time. But the journey that you've been on is It's mad, right?
It's
It's
hard
mad.
to explain it all because there's so many twists and turns and there's a lot. And I keep saying this, I'm not very good at explaining things. And I think it's kind of like my self-expression is still very blocked in speaking my truth in some ways, even though I may make it look easy. Yeah, there's a lot of like, yeah, nervousness there. But yeah, it's hard to even go. There's so many twists and turns that, yeah, I think
Yeah.
really shaped who I am today.
I mean, it feels like there's some sort of narrative in there that keeps telling you that you're not very good at explaining it, but you've just
Oh,
done, I don't know, however long it was, and
yeah,
explained like a mega long journey in the period of time that you've been asked to kind of explain it in as well. Because what you know, your journey, I'm sure you could do it in 2 hours, really, if you sort of
yeah,
went in and told every
yeah.
bit of the story. But you know, like there's a time frame, and you've managed to pinpoint and I went on the
Fast forward.
journey. I went on the
Yeah.
journey in the way that you told it. So you're definitely very good at it. I don't know where the idea is coming from that you're not, but it's coming from somewhere within you, isn't it, right?
Yeah, I know. I know where it's coming from. I think it's just that, like when you've been told at very young, like I know you can relate, Josh, like I'm a highly sensitive person and I've actually come to find that's a very intuitive gift. Like I can
Mm.
feel into a situation and I pick up on things very quickly and easily. And I've also been so deep, like I'm such a deep person and very open. Like most people that meet me who've never met me before seem to think they've seen me or they recognize me from somewhere just because it's so easy to get along with me.
Yeah.
Um, but through being that way and like growing up as a young child, I think I was very mature and I could see what was going on and I knew it wasn't right. And every time I would mention it, I was always told I was wrong and I'm the child and nobody wants to see or hear me. And so it doesn't matter how deep you go with this healing work, it still can come up in so many different levels. And I'm seeing that now,
Yeah.
like the whole self-expression thing around this stuff. I mean, it's challenging for people. And this is why I wanted to speak out about it, is because I think people really struggle to know that it's okay.
Yeah.
And in speaking about it actually helps other people to come out and speak about it. And the more that we're all doing this, it's just like, boom, we're
Yeah.
all being open and connecting and communicating instead of being part of the shame
Yeah.
and resistance and the repression.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really important because I think a lot of us were fed that message that you've just said there, that when we were younger, that you don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are you going on about? I remember people looking at me like, where have you got that from? But I now
Yeah,
know when I was a child, the stuff that I was saying that they were looking at me like I was stupid was right. And
yeah,
they didn't like that I brought it up. So that resonates, and I think the more that that's talked about, like you say, it gives people permission to then be able to do it themselves. There was something you said, that the moment where you saw into your soul, right, in the
yeah,
mirror, when you looked in the mirror, I think that's a really powerful moment. For me, I look in the mirror, I do a piece in the mirror every day. So every morning I have a
yeah,
practice where I look myself in the eye, because if I
mhm,
can't do it, then I know something's going on. And
yeah.
I think it's a really powerful experience. So it's interesting that it's come up as a time of change for you, of bringing about the major change. Was that the big moment for you?
Yeah, I guess so. From memory, like that's what really
Mm.
catapulted me onto this journey of like doing ayahuasca and giving up drinking. Everything else before that, I mean, like doing the fitness competition and stuff, was just another cover up, really. Even though it did play its part and I got to stop drinking, like after I stopped that addiction of gym and food, it went straight back to drugs and alcohol again, but on a bigger level.
Yeah,
So I think it was just that it's a moment of awakening in really seeing like this soul and being like, I don't know, it's like you need to rescue yourself.
yeah. You're doing the seeing, but in the very same moment as well, you're having a moment of being seen, right?
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
it's like this weird paradigm of like, yeah, of finally being seen for the first time, but
yes,
you're being
yeah,
seen by yourself, so you're actually learning about what you see as well.
yeah,
That's massive. And I think it's a good point about the food and the fitness side as well,
Yeah,
because I
another
think
addiction.
a food and fitness addiction is being sold as a kind of mental health cure at the
Yeah,
moment, and we
see it
got to
all
be
the time.
careful.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
like how you look and stuff like that. And I've have compassion for people because they speak about like their anxiety and depression and how they smashed it in the gym. But I know full well that like if you were to stop them from going to the gym and like, you know, doing like the diet and stuff that they're doing, it would come back
yeah,
because it's not getting to it on a deeper level.
yeah, and the gym should be a break. So, because I do
Yeah,
the gym every day, but I do
yeah,
that because um, I've had periods in my life. So, like 4 years ago, I was doing the gym and counting my calories, and I was going to the gym twice a day, counting all my
yeah,
calories, like measuring out like rice and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah, and that was running. That was running
from
away
junk
from
to
my
right.
emotions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I had all this. I was thinking about all this stuff, so
All
I
the
didn't.
guns though.
Yeah, and I didn't have to think about my emotions. Yeah, so I was
Yeah,
using it as a way to escape.
yeah,
Whereas the more healthy way is actually when I go to the gym now, it's all focused around my mind, and I do
yeah,
stuff where It's not about lifting as heavy as I can. It's about I do it very on my own. It's very insular. It's very even when I lift weights, it's about how much can I connect my body with my mind, which is much different to when I fell into when I was just completely addicted to it, right? And
yeah.
then and then there's like fasting can be an amazing tool, but
Yeah.
then I've fallen into the trap of just starving myself all day and telling everyone I'm fasting, but I'm literally just starving myself as a way of trying to have control in my life.
Yeah, it's this obsession stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like you have to check in with yourself and sort of see, what am I doing this for? Like
yeah,
that's the best question you can ask yourself. Like honestly, sit with yourself. Like what am I doing this for? And what would happen if I stopped?
yeah,
Like because there are many things that we can find to help fill the void. And just going back to that moment of like looking in the mirror and connecting with my soul, it wasn't all like rainbows and unicorns after that,
mm,
you know, that I went and did ayahuasca and I connected with myself. That actually triggered an existential crisis because I finally realized, fuck, I don't know who I am. And like, sorry if I'm swearing, by the way, I swear a
that's all
lot.
right. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, like it just sent me down this roller coaster of having to find myself. And I always think that's an important thing to mention because I know with people who are really struggling in this during this time or whenever, and you know, hitting that period of loneliness and not really feeling understood, that's all a very big part of, you know, the crisis and becoming who you truly are. You know,
Yeah,
you have to hit that low point of like feeling lost and like you're nothing and no one. That's the biggest part of it, being nothing and no one, because
yeah,
essentially we are nothing and no one really. Everything else is just, you know, a persona.
yeah,
And we can make and mold it in however we wish, but most of who we've created has been a part of our past, you know.
yeah.
So we get to start and press the restart button whenever we want,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
so
not
true.
easy.
It's no, it's not easy. And this is the thing, the real healing work is, I always say, it's dog dirty. It's like
Truly.
it's a tangled mess, you know. And I mean, like the breakthroughs are not like this. Like I had an amazing breakthrough yesterday, and I just feel so amazing about it. It's like I've been through 2 weeks of utter disgusting pain, and I feel like
Yeah,
I'm finally starting to emerge as something a little bit more
yeah,
abundant and full. Do you know what I mean? That's what real healing is. You know,
£100%.
it's hard stuff. It's hard going stuff, but so worth it as well to evolve. When you have those real moments of evolving, I think it's incredible.
Yeah, and it does get easier, I think, because you become more conscious of it.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like in a world full of life coaches and health and wellness people on social media, that's one of the biggest things that I think people should look out for is people who share their hardship, people who share their journey and the truth of the difficult challenges, because it doesn't stop. And I
yeah,
think people have this idea of, oh, if you're a guru or a teacher or a coach, like they've got it all figured out. But in actual fact, we just keep going through more levels of it. Like it keeps coming, it doesn't ever stop. And I really admire people like yourself who share it, you know, as it's happening, and their own challenges, you know, because that's the truth of it. It's not all positivity. And I know that gets at you as well, because it really does with me. Like,
because that's not the game. That's not how it is. And you know,
we're multifaceted, you know, like
exactly. And you know, one of the messages I always try and put out in the work that I do is, you know, look, yoga and mindfulness and candlelit baths and all of them stuff, they're great, right? All of them. And I use all of them. They're brilliant, right? But that's all I'm going to share. Then I'm talking shit because most of the time I'm an emotional mess and I'm trying to figure out why. And I think that's really important. It's really important. And you know, I if ever anybody says to me, you know, I really want to get to a place where you're at, where you're so together, I'm like, if I've come across as together to you, then I've got it wrong, because I ain't together. I'm just aware of the fact that I'm not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I always find that on social media, if anyone's just sharing like love and light and candles and baths and things like that, it doesn't interest me. What interests me is when I see people purging in a bucket, like, and like going through all these struggles, or like putting a video up of them crying their eyes out, having like a moment. That to me, I'm like fully engaged. But I know most of the population is the other way around, because they don't want to face that stuff within them. So that's where it needs to flip, in that people who are looking for a coach or looking to work with someone or looking to learn things, learn from the vulnerability, not the positivity. Because the positivity is it's the fruit that you get from the hard fucking labor that we need to be doing, you know?
Oh, that's a big line that you said there. That is a big, and that is it. That is it. The positivity, the positivity is the reward for the labor, the fruit of the labor. And it's so true. You know the term spiritual bypass?
Yeah, I do. I've been a spiritual bypasser, you know?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
that's why we see it.
Yeah. And
like, I can see it in people.
Yeah, and it's rife at the moment. I think it's really, you know, even especially in the pandemic, it's just everywhere. This kind of, you know, over spiritualizing everything's a trauma response as well, isn't it? When I'm like, you know, oh, this happened to me because it was meant to, and I think, I don't know, like, I don't know, it's mad, it's mad.
100%.
So look, what if you could share some of your biggest learnings, right? If you had to think right now, I've got this platform, you kind of shared your story. If you could break down and I think this is harder for people to answer like you, because there's no hacks, right? So I'm not looking for hacks, but what wisdom would you give people as a takeaway from this?
Well, I think right now, what I've just recently shared around reacting and responding, just paying attention to where reactions are coming up, and knowing that it's not about what's going on in the outside world, to come back to yourself. And in coming back to yourself, really learning to drop into the physical body and not be up here trying to figure things out, like feeling into, where is this coming from? Where is this emotion coming from? What does it feel like? And see if you can start to understand, like, if there is a story behind it. And know that it's not going to be the story that you're telling yourself right now. It's going to be something from way back when. And something I tell clients to do is just connect with the breath. The breath is the biggest tool that we can really work with, because we've all kind of forgotten how to breathe. A lot of us are up in our chest. So like bringing it down into the belly and just being conscious of where the breath is going, and like just trying to relax into the breath, because that really helps us to drop into the moment and come into alignment and help us to respond instead of react. And I think that alone in itself will just really start to change, you know, how a day rolls out. And I guess the other thing is just prioritize yourself. You know, I see people constantly looking to help people when they haven't even helped themselves yet. Like, you can't help somebody else until you truly know what it means to like love yourself and take care of yourself. And as we've just discussed, there's challenges that come with that. There's discomforts that come with that. And helping people is sometimes just the easy option to make you feel good for a temporary amount of time. You know, you will keep coming back to the same problems if you don't really look at how to truly love yourself and prioritize yourself. And so, yeah, I guess just try and prioritize yourself first thing in the morning before you start anything else with work or family commitments. Just even 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just to stop before, you know, you start your patterns, and maybe journal a bit, or, you know, breathe and meditate, and just find practices that work for you. And those are the kind of things that have really helped to change up every day for me and help me to drop into myself and make choices that I know are in alignment, and, you know, I can use my intuition instead of being scrambled and here, there and everywhere. So yeah, I guess they're the two main things.
Incredible with, like, it's so in line with everything that I talk about, the reconnecting with your body, get out of the rationalizing everything, and
all up here.
Yeah, we're stuck in the rational part of our brain, right? Do you know a guy called John Bradshaw?
Rings a bell.
You have to check him out. I'll speak to him about him after we've stopped recording.
Okay.
But listen, lastly, where's the best place for people to find you if they're interested in the work you're doing and the spiral coaching that you're doing? Where's the best place to go?
So my Instagram is the Soul Work Strategist, and my website is the Soul Work Strategist. I can't even say it. .com. soulworkstrategist.com. Imagine saying that after a few drinks. Soul Work. Yeah, so that's me.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll link all of that as well, so everyone will have that. But listen, I just want to say I appreciate you. This has been brilliant for me.
Yeah, it's been really good to connect with you, actually. It wasn't as hard as I thought.
No, brilliant.